I wonder when I'll pop up live. I bet you all thought that I forgot. No one's here yet. I'm talking to nobody. It's basically like I'm doing this alone at this point, because nobody's here yet. Why won't this close? Okay, there we go. Why can't I see anybody? Am I live? I should be. Here we go. Cutting it pretty close for sure. It's been one of those days. It has been one of those days. How's everybody doing? You don't have this movie, you better rent it quick. Rent it on Vudu. Hello there. I see we got Shin Godzilla in the chat. Alright, we getting the headphones set. It's been such a terribly unproductive day for all the wrong reasons. Everybody get Shin Godzilla popped in quick. We starting it at 5. I just started watching Guardian of the Universe. It's a nice choice. Alright, let's get Shin Godzilla pulled up. I am cutting it close. Like I said, I have not been as productive as I would like to be today. I've got a lot of finals that I will be doing the second this stream stops. Alright, let's get this all opened up. Get the subtitles all set. Here we go, Shin Godzilla. Let's see if it has subtitles. Why can't I hear it? There we go. Got the Japanese version all pulled up and ready to go, friends. I'm totally doing this wrong. God, I'm so unprepared today. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. I'm back. Okay, let's do it. I'm back. I just realized, I was like, I have no way to watch the chat. Totally forgot to get my second monitor set up. Alright. 2 minutes. And we're starting Shin Godzilla. Japanese version. Technically, runtime is the same. So you can watch either version. Alright. Sadly, I don't have this movie and I can't stream, so bye. Alright, see you, Gavin. This stream is dedicated to my boy Mike the Bird. He was my bird for like 10 years, and he's died today. Okay. Okay. I think I'm set. Alright, I'm cutting it really close. Oh my god. Alright, I got my finger on the play button. Yeah, rip mic. Alright, 20 seconds. Yeah, get some F's in the chat. Sad boys moment. All right, 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play. There we go. We're good. We're good. I like that they use both logos. I think that's awesome. And here's the footsteps. Too good, dude. I don't know what noise I just made. The good old 54 roar. Starting out with the opening of 54 shot with the water behind the boat. Why both logos? Why not? It's awesome. I love the switch from the new logo to the old logo. I think it's so cool. Glori Maru. I think this is a really cool opening sequence. I just love the cinematography of this movie. I think this is almost a perfect film. Almost. I popped on the Godzilla Resurgence shirt for this special occasion. Almost a perfect film. I love this intro. Creates mystery and intrigue right off the bat. And then the footsteps here with the blood is just so cool. Yeah, I think this is just an awesome movie. Probably my favorite movie of the last 20 years. I almost got thrown off because my film has the Funimation logo at the start. Mine does not. There's so many cool shots like that, of just like the pens or whatever, that just makes this movie so visually interesting. I love it. I made a whole video essay earlier, I guess last year, a whole video essay last year about the cinematography in this movie and how I think it's just perfect. I'll pull this up now that we're watching the movie. Snob Gojira, good one. Have you gotten to Eva Rebuild films? I have not. I have only made it through the end of Evangelion. There's some, I don't know how to describe it, crispness to this movie. Does that make any sense? There's a certain crispness. I don't know. It feels more real than most big budget Hollywood movies, and I don't know if that's to do with the color palette, or I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know if I'm describing this correctly, but there is a weird crispness to this movie that makes it seem very real. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I do really like this whole found footage portion too. I remember when the rumors came out back in the day that that this movie was going to be all found footage. Oh, nobody wanted that. Yeah, this part feels like a news report. They knew what they were going for. They did amazing on the CGI. Yeah, big time. The CG in this movie is fantastic. I know a lot of people will give it a bad rep, but I think it's really good. Here's the tips and tricks for anybody watching. If you are wondering what timestamp we're on, you don't have to wonder. we started the movie at 5, right? So wherever you live on the hour is when we started it, on the hour. So it's 5 Pacific, right? So if you're wondering what the timestamp is, just look at the clock and say, oh, it's 5:05, or I guess it's 5:05, and then we are at 5 minutes. Hey, how far are you? And what language? Yeah, the exact timestamp is 5:18, and it is in Japanese. I love all the inclusion of classic Godzilla actors in here as well. This movie really is a subtle love letter to the Godzilla franchise. Not in the way that King of the Monsters is. King of the Monsters is an in-your-face love letter to the Godzilla franchise. This one is significantly more subtle in its approach. But I do like having Godzilla actors back. Feels very classic Godzilla. I think the dynamic between these two characters is something that people don't talk about enough, but I really like it. I really like these two characters, Hideki Akasaka and Rendo Yaguchi. I like how people look down on Yaguchi because he is willing to do anything he needs to do to get the job done. I think that's really interesting because, as they even bring up in this movie, that's a dynamic that's rewarded here in the States rather than following, by the book. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. People look down on him, but he's also taller than most people. I didn't think about that. The sequel is canceled. Well, technically, it's not canceled because it wasn't greenlit, was it? After having seen Evangelion, this movie really, really hits you over the head with the Evangelion. The good news is it stands on its own. I mean, I went 4 years watching Shin Godzilla and not seeing Evangelion, and now that I've seen Evangelion and I go back to Shin Godzilla, oh, whoa. Like these moments where it cuts to black and there's just text on screen that will tell you whatever. That is very, very Evangelion. I like the running theme in this movie too of underestimating your opponent, constantly downplaying the threat, always assuming that the best is going to happen. Downplaying the threat, always assuming things are going to turn out for the better when there's no evidence to suggest that. That sounds very familiar, doesn't it? It's almost like our government has slowly shifted into the government in this movie. Maybe we have a Yaguchi out there fighting for us. I like the humor like that as well. Just the cutaway humor. I don't know what the hell just happened to my voice there. But I don't know. I think this movie is very comedic in a lot of aspects. It's not in-your-face comedy. It's not like they're telling knee slapper jokes or anything. It's just the situations they're in, the way they respond to them is funny, That's kind of the humor that I like. I like humor when it's funny in a little bit more of a subtle way. And this movie has a lot of that. Specifically with our Prime Minister here. Sorry. I wish more films would do this. Yeah, I understand that the American sense of humor is very different. Well, actually, the Japanese sense of humor traditionally is much more slapstick than American sense of humor. But I understand that the American audiences like their knee slapper, witty comeback jokes. But I do agree. I wish more movies would do things like this. A Heisei watch along next week? No. The entire Heisei era, just one day after another. I'm probably not gonna do a watch along next week. Actually, I might do 98. I'm not joking about that. I might do 98 next week, but I'm not 100% planning on doing a watch along next week because I have finals all this week and next week, and it's just gonna be way busier than I want to be. This film goes way faster than I remember. It is seemingly moving very quick. I can't believe we're already 10 minutes in. Like, we're flying through this. Are you still graduating? I graduated last year. End of Evangelion watch along someday. Someday I might do that. I'll bring Yoko Higuchi on. We'll do a watch along of End of Evangelion. I would have brought him on for this one, but I know he's not allowed to talk about this movie, so. So supposedly, this shot of the blood exploding here, right there, or the water, I should say, exploding there, that's the tunnel caving in, right? But it's also supposed to be where he evolves into Kamata-kun. I love these guys. It's moments like this, just the deadpan humor of it, where, you just cut away to a silence boardroom. And then you get these really awkward, almost Wes Anderson-esque shots of these super awkward, weird scientists. Just love it. Hideki Anno, Japanese Wes Anderson. He's a lot better, in my opinion. He's a lot better than Wes Anderson. Most of you guys probably don't know who that director is, but film people will be triggered by that comment, I'm sure. When is the Wikizilla watch along? We're just going to watch the entire channel. The Alpha. That's supposed to be a reference to some Toho movie. There's some ship called the Alpha. I couldn't tell you which one it is. See, again, the visual effects don't look incredible here, do they? They don't look the best, but I think this movie gets away with not the best special effects, or CGI, I should say, because they look really practical in a lot of the movie. It looks like something you could see in real life, like with a suit, I mean. Here's a subtle little Easter egg. If you check the date there, November 3rd is the date this movie is set, or this scene, I should say. November 3rd, of course, being the release date of the original Godzilla. So Godzilla appears on the release date of the original Godzilla. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie you can get away with a lot because they do it. They execute the CG stuff so goddamn well that it looks so convincing, like a suit, that I think they get away with not always the best compositions. I love all the fan art of her. I think that's real funny that people really banded behind her. I like that shot too, where he's scowling at her. Exactly. It won't come on land. That's not going to happen. This virus will be gone by February. It's not going to hit America. Never. Let's do it. There's a lot of mogatas and yokai going on in this movie. And of course, you couldn't watch this film without acknowledging the 311 parallels. I have talked in length about that topic on the channel a number of times, so I don't feel the need to exactly go over all that stuff here again, because I think it's mostly general knowledge, and I've talked about it so much that I don't want to beat that topic to death. But they did a really great job with this film in that regard as well. It'll be crushed to death under its own weight. Guys, it'll be fine. This is probably my favorite gag in the movie. This is funnier than most jokes told in American movies within the past 10 years. And then here we go. Persecution of the masses, man. You're watching it in the English version? That's fair. You know, it's this. Okay, not my favorite shot in the movie, but it works for a number of reasons as well. I feel like this line is something that has been said behind closed doors in the American government a lot lately. Now I just got proved a liar in front of the entire... Yeah. The alpha comes out of latitude 0. That does sound correct. The heat, yeah, the heat will slow the virus. It'll be gone before summer. California's, yeah, for real. There's so much. I'm probably just gonna watch this scene and not read the chat as much because this is one of my favorite sequences of the movie. The blood's really interesting. I wish they had kept the acid blood. I think that's a super interesting concept that I wish we got to see a little more. It makes him almost like the aliens from Alien, you know, the xenomorphs. Here is our, that line kind of states the message of the movie right here. The foundations of democracy. And their news footage is handled so realistically that, you know, you get the people signing and everything. This movie has a really awesome way of handling the realism because it is a super wild, goofy movie. That's a beautiful shot with the smoke rising in the background. That dude's leg crushed under the car. It's such a weird, goofy movie when you think about it. But it takes itself so seriously, and it presents so much realism that it's really easy to forget how silly this movie is. Yeah, the acid blood does come in form 3. And I know a lot of people get really upset with all the boardroom stuff in this movie. They hate the... Yeah, it does look like Ghidorah's tail. They hate all this stuff, you know. They hate seeing inside the Tokyo Department of Control or whatever. I don't remember what that... I just totally missed what it said. But they hate seeing all the government aspects of it. I think it's awesome. It's not something we touch on in any other Godzilla movie. And you could say 85 sort of does, but not really. 85 hit some broad strokes. This movie really goes for it. This is the first Godzilla movie, that's told entirely from the perspective of government workers. And I'm not talking military or scientists, because we always get that. This is the first time we're actually seeing the government's point of view, and I think it's awesome because it gives us a good look at... Basically, this is happening behind the scenes in all Godzilla movies, you could say, or in most of them anyways. This is an awesome shot where he's pushing the cars. Although he is a goofy-looking design, he is powerful. And this scene, I think, really demonstrates that, as well as the shot right here where he's about to climb up this building. I think it really does a great job of showing just how dangerous he is. I mean, he's just about to kill a little kid right here. He's killing a mom and a dad and a little kid. And he pushes this building over. One thing that I also love about this film is if you pay attention to a lot of the scenes, and that's all practical, by the way. They all do this stuff practically. A lot of the destruction stuff is done practically, and then they just insert Godzilla into it. They did a lot of stuff with miniatures in this film, which is awesome. I love that tradition being continued. But I don't even remember what I was just saying. What was I saying right before that? Something about how dangerous he was? What was I saying? I totally got distracted. I do not remember what I was talking about. This is a cool little framing as well. I like the you get to see the red tape on screen blocking them. It's a cool little shot. 85 is generic government, the way that the way the public is seen. This is true government, how it actually works. Yeah, for real. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's the way it's presented versus the way it is in reality. Persecution of the Masses is such a brilliant song. It's my favorite original piece of Godzilla music outside of Ifukube. What timestamp? We are at 1952, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. Always getting the U.S. to clean up the problems, huh? Shin is easily one of my favorite Godzilla designs. I really like the demonic, eerie aspects of it. I agree. I remember I originally didn't love the Shin Godzilla design, did I? I think it will probably be really interesting to look back at my initial thoughts on this movie before it came out, because I wasn't really on board with this film until I saw it. I had seen enough clips and I had heard enough information about the movie to be able to say, on paper, I don't like it. I didn't like most things I heard about it, and then I saw the way it was executed, and it is the huge difference between what you're told and what you get, you know? And what you get is so much better than what you're told in this case. Are you sure about that? I think they could stop it. I think that they would have been able to kill Godzilla until he becomes Godzilla. This movie does move really fast. I mean, we're 20 minutes in and we've already had one major action set piece or one destruction set piece. I think it's crazy when people complain about how slow this movie moves. The slowness comes in the second act. The movie really slows down halfway through the second act. That's when it's slow, but even then, that portion that's slow does not last as long as you remember. It doesn't. It moves by much quicker than what you remember. I've seen this movie an unhealthy amount of times. King of the Monsters does not feel slower than this. What are you talking about? King of the Monsters, 20 minutes in, we've already seen Godzilla. We've already seen Mothra's hatching. We've seen them go to the Arctic. They're going to wake up Ghidorah here in 10 minutes. Godzilla's showing up underwater right now to scare Monarch. This movie does not move faster than King of the Monsters. I just think this movie has really incredible attention to detail. And this is a great exchange here in the elevator. I love Yaguchi's rebuttal to this. The idea that they're going to build a theme park with Godzilla's body. I think Yaguchi makes really good points here about unfounded optimism. And I like the contrast there between, the government workers who are safe in their little elevator and the inside, and then you cut to the public who's all outside exposed. Godzilla's walking through the streets. I'm sorry to hear that, KB. It's really sad. I really like this shot of him pushing through the buildings right here. And then when he tries to stand up, I don't know how to describe the texture of Kamata-kun. He's got a really interesting texture to him. Like I said, Kamata-kun doesn't look the greatest, but I think he still looks pretty good. It is a weird sort of texture he has to him. And now here's where we get to one of the things that I don't like about this movie. One of the only things is the evolution effect. I do not like the bumpy, wavy, weird effect they put on Godzilla. I think it looks bad. But that looks amazing. That shot and the roar. I remember seeing this movie in a theater full of Godzilla fans when it came out. And man, did people love that. He looks so real right there where he roars that I think it makes up for the not as good CG that was earlier. I think that's the thing with this movie, is that it's got such a good balance. You know, for every shot that you could say looks a little bad, you have a shot that looks incredible. There's our first indication that the physics in this universe are not quite the physics in our universe, huh? He sent that train flying, which is a recurring trend in this movie. That's a cool shot. I don't love that shot on the bridge. I think he looks a little too bowling pin like right there. But I love the shot of him walking behind the buildings. This film was only Godzilla fans when it came to theaters in the States. Yeah, it really was. It was like a G-Fest local, right? It was like a local G-Fest, whichever theater you went to. I think I saw this movie 3 times in theaters. It was awesome all 3 times. Filled, packed theater all 3 times. If you remember, this movie was so successful that its limited release got extended by a full week. I love that Godzilla just stops. Alright, see you, Godzilla. I love it. Yeah, it is a reference to 54 walking in front of the train. This movie is loaded with Easter eggs. And again, this movie's got really creative cinematography. There's a lot of camera angles in here that we've never seen in a Godzilla movie before. We don't really look down the gun barrel, do we? That's something that this movie does, like that shot. This movie does really well that we don't see a lot. This has always kind of confused me. So the people are walking across the train track. I guess I just don't understand the geography of the shot very well. Where are they? Where are these people? What about them walking across the train tracks truly puts them in danger? And it's always frustrated me that and I know that's the point. It is the point that the Prime Minister would draw the helicopters back rather than keeping them in that position waiting to attack. Because I do believe that they probably could have killed Godzilla right here. I don't think he is strong enough or well enough evolved to be able to survive being attacked. That shot's awesome. Looking over his tail. The tail adds so much cool stuff to this movie. I just noticed the glare on Godzilla's eyes is really interesting. Again, I think this movie does not get enough credit for the special effects that work, the CGI that works. Because shots like that really show how awesome it is. And I like how if you look in the water, you can see a trail of blood. And then, of course, that shot's really, really beautiful. But it's really, really not talked about enough how great some of the visual effects are in this film. They really, really, really capture the feel of a suit. They do a great job, man. He has fish eyes because he basically just evolved as a fish before this. Yeah, true. I actually didn't know he has fish eyes, but I'm agreeing that that is the reason. I like how if you pay close enough attention, you can see the shots that were shot on the iPhone 6. Because if you didn't know, they spent so much money on the budget for this movie going into a giant animatronic that they never used in the film, but that they completed and they did all these test shoots with. And it was an awesome animatronic. I'm hoping that it's not just rotting somewhere. I'm hoping that they're planning on doing something with it someday, putting it in the Shin Godzilla exhibit. That could be a really cool use of it, or repurposing it somehow. But if you didn't know, they spent so much money on that they were a little lacking in some areas. And so some of the movie was shot on iPhone 6. Or so the story goes. You can correct me if I'm wrong, if you know that I'm wrong. But that's my understanding of it. I believe it's in storage somewhere. I doubt they will let it rot. Yeah, that one. Toho seems to be pretty good. That's a beautiful shot. Toho seems to be really good with taking care of their suits nowadays. I mean, they didn't used to be, man, they used to let those suits deteriorate quick. But they seem to be good with restoring suits constantly, putting them to good use, bringing them out, bringing like the Showa Mechagodzilla suit, bringing that one to, all sorts of different events. They seem to be good with that. So I'm hoping, when they open up this life-size Shin Godzilla attraction, maybe they will put the animatronic there. I think that could be a really cool place to put it. Why do you think Shin Godzilla's offspring resemble humans? Because humanity beat him. Godzilla is not an idiot in this movie, although the characters seemed to think so. They state many times that he only seems to walk in a straight line. I think Godzilla is driven by purpose in this film. I think he is fueled by Goro Maki, and that's a theory that I've touched on many times in the past, but I've never dedicated a full video to it like I would have liked to. The idea that Goro Maki is somehow inside Godzilla. He got absorbed. He jumped off the boat, killed himself, and was assimilated by Godzilla as Godzilla started to evolve, and so some of his personality is within Godzilla, which would explain Godzilla's hatred for Japan, why he destroys the country. That kind of idea. And I think the reason is because Godzilla is smart enough to recognize... That's another running gag, by the way, that I really like. The Yaguchi's title. I love how every time you see him after a big event happens, his title will be significantly longer. And then shots like this are just awesome. The cinematography here is beautiful. It looks incredible. Don't worry, I'll get back to the Goro Maki stuff. I just want to take a minute to praise the camera work in this film and to... just talk about how awesome it is. It's a great little montage here. Love the Evangelion music. Works great. Gives it lots of energy. But yeah, anyways, what I was saying with Maki is I think Godzilla's smart enough to realize, humanity beat him fair and square. I think he knows that. He realizes the need for teamwork because it was a team of creatures that beat him. A team of smaller individual organisms that beat him by banding together. He realizes the importance of community, and so his next evolution is going to be a hive mind set of organisms that are a little bit more humanoid in nature, and they can do some battle, and they can wreak some havoc. That seems hilarious. I don't know why people hate this film. What do you What do you reckon? I was like, what do you retcon? What do you reckon they will do with the frozen Shin Godzilla? I think they're just gonna keep studying him, trying to find ways to destroy his DNA. They said it'll take years to sequence. Good news is they have years before he unthaws. Bad news is it seems that his tail has evolved, so they may have a new threat to try and pick off, which is the smaller organisms. But I think that we could probably handle it. If we could take on the big Godzilla, I have a feeling that they won't have too much trouble. Well, they'll probably still have trouble, but they won't have nearly as much trouble taking on the 50-foot or so smaller organisms. But yeah, I think they'll have his DNA sequenced in time to figure out how to shut him down. I mean, they already came up with a reactor scram. I think, if you can get his internal reactor to go on the fritz in order to shut him down, I think you could probably find a way to melt him down. I think you could probably find a way to kill him from the inside out. Exploit that... exploit his nuclear biology and get him to kill himself. Burning Godzilla style. Just hope that he doesn't blow up the earth. I love this guy too. Even though I don't think enough of the characters get enough time to shine, I think each one is awesome in their own right. I love Pink Towel Guy. I wish I knew their names. It's not even a matter of like, oh man, the characters are boring and there's too many of them so you don't know their names. First of all, yeah, there is a lot of characters, so I don't know their names. But also, most Japanese Godzilla movies, I will struggle to tell you the names of the main characters, not because I haven't seen them 10 million times, but because the names are Japanese, and so it's harder for me to remember the names. Don't get me wrong, I can probably name one character from each Godzilla movie, but I can't name multiple characters from each, probably. So where is the movie at? It's wherever you're watching it. For me, it's on my computer. For some people, it's on their TVs. I remember the war between who is better, Shin Godzilla in 2014. Yeah, I remember that war too. It's a ridiculous war to be had. The answer's obvious. It's Shin Godzilla. Good old President Ross. What do you think he's up to nowadays? He was freshly elected at this time. President Ross. He'll probably get reelected. President Ross is probably doing fine. He seems to be a little bit more on it than some other presidents I can think of. Why? We're trying to have a Shin Godzilla watch along, and we're still getting Godzilla vs. Kong trailer questions. Here we go, Kayoko Ann Patterson, everyone's favorite. I remember when this trailer came out, and universally every single person fell in love with her. A man who foresaw your creature's appearance several years ago. Goro Maki, the most interesting character that you never see. Again, feel I should mention Goro Maki, not the first use of the name in the Godzilla franchise. This is the third after Son of Godzilla. She's very sassy in that shot. After Son of Godzilla and after our friend in Godzilla 84. Win-win. This is probably the cringiest moment in the movie. But I also just noticed that her bouncer dude, her backup bodyguard, is the most anime character to ever be put on the big screen in the world. Wait, let's hope that guy comes back on screen. Are you kidding me? I know he does. I know he shows back up here pretty soon. But how have I never noticed that dude before? That guy's hilarious looking. Got the glasses and everything. There's the line in this movie. Let's get to it. I say that's one of those weird lines that is constantly runs through my head. I do like that. That's pretty subtle. You know, you have this moment where they're talking about, Kayoko Ann Patterson used her father's name to get her where she is now. She's Yaguchi's type. You cut to these guys, and these guys are doing this job because of Yaguchi's dad and how much he meant to them. So, although that's the intentional parallel they're trying to draw, I feel like not. I don't know. I feel like that's an easy one to miss. I feel like it's pretty easy to miss that moment. Because, again, not a lot of people are caught up in the dialogue in this movie. A lot of people got bored. I don't understand. There's that dude again. There he is. Bald, small glasses. They're completely dark. That mustache. His posture. Everything. Godzilla. Remember when we had first seen this clip? Godzilla. We had first seen this clip and we could not figure out what she said. The DOE's code name. I remember going on a live stream and being like, what words came out of her mouth right there? Could not figure that one out. I do. They come up with the name Godzilla, right? Which is weird for two reasons. Number one, I mean, I love the Odo Island reference, but it's weird that they credit it to the Americans. They're like, oh, well, the Americans named him, better yet. Americans named him Godzilla. But I also think it's interesting because the text, I didn't see the word Godzilla written. I didn't see that. I didn't see it on the page Iguchi was looking at. It's like one of the only words in Japanese I can read. And I didn't spot it. So where did he read it? Which soundtrack is better in your opinion, King of the Monsters or Shin Godzilla? That's impossible for me to say, because King of the Monsters has better use of Ifikube's music. Like better remixes of it. Like the way it's worked into Battle of Boston is so cool. But probably this soundtrack. Because not only does it have the authentic Ifukube music, but it's got so much awesome other music, like Persecution of the Masses, Who Will Know, Only Defeat. That's not the name. It definitely isn't Only Defeat. It's Defeat is No Option. Why did I say Only Defeat? This shot coming up of her hand. Yes. Right there. Yes. It's a monologue, but I don't know. I don't know if it'd be considered a monologue. I think this would be considered a speech. But damn, does she talk quick. Personal service. There's that good old bio map. I have a copyright in the background I bought. I can't make sense of it either, Yaguchi. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. We are flying through this movie. We are 40 minutes in. People asking for the timestamp. We are at 41, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. There you go. You got frozen? Pulling a Shin Godzilla getting frozen? I'm also bad at Japanese. I don't think she's bad at Japanese, if I'm being honest. Actually, I think she was just saying she's bad at Japanese politics. She's not saying I'm bad at speaking Japanese. She's saying I'm bad at your political structure. Let's switch to being more informal. At least you know Japanese. I know some phrases. I know introductory phrases, and I know how to say meaningless things. I'm not able to converse in Japanese yet. This is the most interesting part of the movie here, or I think the most important. The fact that they can't understand his biology, his body harbors new elements, which explains why he's able to basically defy the laws of physics. It needs to be explained more often in Godzilla movies, because you will always get those people trying to be clever, trying to point to problems with the movies, being like, well, how could Godzilla stand? Like, okay, that's the nitpick you're going with? How could he not be crushed under his own weight? This movie explains it. And I think the descriptions here is really cool. They really hype Godzilla up to be a force to be reckoned with. Only origin story that makes sense. After the first major SDF attack, Shin Godzilla decided he needed ranged capabilities and evolved. It would be no use to a sea creature. That's not true. Godzilla evolves into Godzilla, right? He evolves from the third form into Godzilla not so that he can attack, but so that he can be on land. He still is incapable of ranged defenses, right? He doesn't have the range, unless this is what you're saying, in which case then I'm agreeing with you, but he still doesn't have his ranged ability when he comes on land. He develops that ranged ability when he undergoes a small evolution after being bombed in the heart of Tokyo. Once he's bombed, that's when his body kicks into gear, he undergoes another evolution, and that is when he develops the ranged attacks. Yeah, the fourth form is as large as it is, mostly for heat regulation. Yeah. This is something that I really, really would have loved to see expanded, and I still need to see expanded in a future Godzilla movie. The idea that people worship the kaiju as gods, specifically Godzilla, the people that worship Godzilla as a god and are having protests because of that, super duper interesting. Wish we did more with that in this film. Like, picture, maybe not in this movie because this movie has enough to do already, but picture in a Godzilla movie a terrorist attack on the JSDF because people are trying to prevent them from attacking Godzilla. I think that'd be really, really interesting to have people do something like that. Kind of like, I don't know, the Seradian agent from Biollante attacking, you know, the government and the self-defense forces because Godzilla's their god. And again, we have another character here. This movie's kind of Shakespearean in a way. In that every once in a while, a character will sum up what the movie is about. Change your shirt. Why change my shirt? What's wrong with my shirt? Everyone... Oh. I get what you're saying. Because it smells a little rank. I was like, what are you talking about? My shirt's awesome. Oh, there it is. Bum, 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 bum. I love this sequence. I've said this many, many times, but this sequence from here all the way up until Godzilla shuts down in the heart of Tokyo is the perfect Godzilla movie moment for me. This section, I didn't forget about the line, I just didn't understand. This section is the epitome of what Godzilla is to me. I love it so much. Look at the detail in the tail. It looks like a suit. Everything looks so great. I do find it interesting that they changed the shot of him on the beach from the original reveal. It's no longer bowling pin Godzilla. It's now just the bottom half of him. The CGI in this portion of the movie is, I would argue, the best CGI in Godzilla film history. And the way the dorsal fins move is even like the suit. It's even got like the kind of rubbery aesthetic where they don't really seem like they're secured. That shot's freaking awesome. I love that shot where the people are running and he's walking behind the bridge. People will argue about the scale of it, of all this stuff. I think it makes sense because he's far enough away, but he's so big that he looks like he's close, which is why the telephone wires seem to be about waist high on him. They're not. And the use of Ifukube music here is awesome. There's so many super iconic shots in this. And I also love the positioning of Godzilla's hands. Remind me when we get to downtime when Godzilla's not on screen anymore. When we get to that downtime in the second act. To tell you guys the story about the Shin Godzilla upturned hands and TJ Storm. Remind me to tell you guys that story. This is the Ifukube music here. The shots like this where you have evacuation going on and then Godzilla in the background, or really just the shots where Godzilla's in the background are awesome. So many incredibly iconic moments come from this sequence. And shots like that really show the scale of this Godzilla. I mean, he's just kicking cars hundreds of feet in the air. He's huge. I think this is the sequence that truly emphasizes how large this Godzilla is, and that is such an underrated shot of Godzilla in the factory. I love the factory sirens. The sound design is awesome in this movie. I know a lot of people might take issue with the Showa sound effects. Again, there's a lot of things that people could take issue with this film. And again, on paper, this movie shouldn't work, I don't think. You've got 1960s sound effects. You've got music that came from the 1960s just appearing in the middle of your film. There's a monster that fires beams out of its back, and its tail, and weird evolution stuff and pseudoscience. And there's so much that shouldn't work in this movie, but it does because they have the most brilliant people behind the film making it. I love this movie. You don't really get a sense of scale in King of the Monsters. I disagree. I think you do get a sense of scale in King of the Monsters. Despite that Godzilla being bigger, he looks bigger in that film, but not this big. He looks big in that film, but not this big. I actually disagree with that. I think the sequence where Godzilla comes out of the ice in King of the Monsters in the Arctic, I think that sequence gives us the best scale of how big Godzilla is. I would argue that Shin Godzilla doesn't do enough with scale also. I think no movie comes close to 2014 in showing how large these monsters are. 2014, that's like what it's known for. But I think Shin Godzilla is probably the worst of the three at showing that scale, in my personal opinion. Although there are a lot of shots of Godzilla walking through cities in this movie, which we don't see in King of the Monsters. The soldiers in this shot are superimposed in there, and they have stood out to me as being superimposed in there ever since I've seen this movie. Not because I think they look bad, but because they weren't there in the trailer. And I've become so accustomed to the shots from the trailer that it's always been a little weird. There's also a shot coming up here towards the defeat is no option sequence, or it happens mid defeat is no option sequence, where there's a new shot that wasn't in theaters. They replaced a shot from theaters. I'll never understand that decision. That's so cool. The tail makes this so cool. My bad. I just love the way it whips around. All the crazy stuff this dude's doing with his tail. It's so cool. I love it. It makes him feel almost expressive when he isn't. Everything about the scene is perfect to me. Me too. Is Shin considered more good, evil, neutral? I'm confused. Shin Godzilla is considered evil. I mean, he is evil, right? He's there to destroy Japan. He's not there to find his son or to keep nature's balance. He's there to wipe us out. Godzilla's tail adds so much to this design. I agree. I love that too. Not only do I think that looks amazing, I think Godzilla looks so detailed right there. I love the wrinkles in his skin. I love the texture around his eyes. There's so much that I love. I love the puffiness of his cheeks and the weird teeth. But the bullets bouncing off his head is so cool. I think the CG looks awesome there. And I think the concept of watching these massive machine gun rounds just kind of ping off of him, it makes him seem so invincible and untouchable. This film does such an excellent job making Godzilla feel unbeatable. You really root for the Japanese government because they are up against an unbeatable threat. You can't stop him. He's invincible. And so you're really on the edge. Shots like that, I think, really do a great job of showing the scale of his tail. His tail's so much bigger than he is. That's a brilliant shot as well. And I love there's so many, I can't even talk about all the shots that I love because they go by way too quick in this film, but there's so many great little moments, like seeing the undercarriage of the helicopter as it fires directly towards him. If I was going to break this down from like a nerdy film standpoint, leading inward on Godzilla, the lines pointing in on him make it really dynamic and awesome. And you might be thinking to yourself, wow, Derek, film school really is paying off. And you're very wrong about that. It's mostly just that film school will tell you to go watch a YouTube video that'll teach you these lessons. I feel like I've learned so much because I've watched YouTube videos, and I don't think I've actually learned anything from my school. What's up, self? I'm always gonna stutter on your last name. Elevation. Why do I always want to say evolution? That's not a word. I remember when that shot's... There's also that pan up on Godzilla where he looks so mean, so badass. I remember I spent like 20 straight minutes talking about that when I put out my initial trailer reaction back in the day. But there's so many really cool moments in this movie where, something will fire in front of the screen or dust will be kicked up or whatever. And you'll see the heat waves ripple across the screen that you wouldn't really notice unless you're slowing the movie down to watch it. It's so cool. And the dynamic tank shots is something that I've loved ever since 2016. I've loved these motion shots. I've loved the tank sequence here. There's so much motion constantly. I think it's fantastic. Again, I think these YouTube channels that I'm watching are truly giving me a bit more of an appreciation for this film in particular because I'm seeing all the really awesome filmmaking techniques that went into it. And I guess I could say, yeah, thanks film school for assigning me to watch YouTube videos that do your job for you. They are really informative. If only you could be. I like how everyone says Shin is so slow, but he's actually really fast. He only looks a lot slower due to his large size. But every step covers a lot of ground, for sure. That's also really, really cool. If you slow down, you can see his eyes seal over right before the bomb goes off. Something that we'll see him do later on when he goes to use the atomic breath. I think the weird switching to English at times is kind of interesting. Like when they say laser on, is that really just... Like, why would they say that in English? I don't know. See, that shot I'm not as in love with. I think you could have a decent argument that Godzilla doesn't look great in that shot, despite the explosions looking very realistic. And this is probably the only time we get any personality from Godzilla outside of his tail. The fact that he gets pissed off enough to kick a bridge up into the air just to send it down on these tanks not only adds to Godzilla's intelligence, it makes you realize how smart he is, that he's able to kind of aim that. Makes him a little bit more formidable. But it also gives him some personality because he is clearly doing that because he's annoyed that he's being attacked. Atomic breath scene was awesome, no doubt. That atomic breath scene that's coming up is the best. Why did Godzilla turn northwest? I think because he was trying to get away from the explosions. I think they do hurt him. This shot does a lot to add some scale to Godzilla. I mean, you saw how tiny those soldiers were, and it takes so long to pan up his body. But there's only like 2 or 3 of these moments in the movie that really show how huge he is. Also like the charcoal look of his skin. He looks burnt, And that's the popular theory when this film was coming out, that Godzilla is regenerating, that he's been hit with a nuclear bomb, he's regenerating. I could see that argument. I think I talked a lot about that back in the day. I think I too thought that. I can still see why some people still think that. That's not the case. I think he's just outgrown his skin. I think that's the reason he looks the way he does, is because he's outgrown his skin, and so he needs more skin. But I love the charcoal look. You've got the red running through it. Kind of looks like burning a little bit. like magma almost inside of his body, a little bit like the new Rodan. I don't know why he glows, but I love that he glows. The explosions probably felt like insect bites to him. Not excruciating pain, but annoying enough to make him move away. This shot, no, that's not. Yeah, this is the new shot, isn't it? That's the new shot, I think. But that's not. This shot of him in the distance with his tail flipping around is not. Really awesome shot. But that close-up on his face is new to the Blu-ray release. It was not in the theatrical release, which I still own a copy of. I still own the theatrical release, so I still have the original shot. I love this too. I think it's cooler if Godzilla steps on like a power transformer and shuts off the power to Tokyo. Framing Godzilla, this panning shot, beautiful, looks great. Wish we could have seen him closer to Tokyo Tower, but having Godzilla in the same shot as Tokyo Tower is really awesome. But yeah, I love that Godzilla glows in this movie. It's a great choice. It makes him look really cool. It's probably my favorite part about this design. The shot with the camera spinning around his head is creepy. I don't know if I'd say creepy, but it definitely gives him a very intimidating, powerful feel. And this is really spooky as well. That's creepy when the lights all go out. But yeah, I like the idea that Godzilla steps on a power generator and shuts down all the power rather than Godzilla deploys an EMP from within his body. Or a phased array radar, as they'll call it. That's probably the best shot in the movie. I would argue that he couldn't have stepped... I would argue that he had to have stepped on a transformer and that he didn't deploy his phased array radar right there because you do see the emergency lights are still on. And I think an EMP would knock those out. The lyrics with him walking towards the camera give me chills. The lyrics are awesome. When you read them, I remember back in the day arguing that they were in Japanese. My bad. They're definitely in English. The way the power goes out basically implies he stepped on a generator. And that's what I like to think. We're about to lose half of our cast. Yuki, no. He's Yuki, right? He played Yuki in Space Godzilla. I think that's the character's name. I don't want him to die. I like his character in this movie and in Space Godzilla. The good news is they probably had time to go back and get the rest of the stuff that they didn't grab this first time. I like how, what's her name? Hiromi is just casually walking around in the background. Not too freaked out. But I think they probably had time to go back and gather their belongings. If you're wondering, this is a raid from the ETN stream. Well, thanks for tuning. I mean, this shot right here. What else can you say? I remember that was used in so many of the TV spots. That little moment where Yaguchi turns around. Too good. And then, of course, you got Bloody Godzilla. Ironic how the cars were more dangerous method of travel, yet the helicopter is the one that eats it. Yeah. I think that was, again, a little intentional moment of comedy. But anyways, hey, ETN stream, what's up? Can you do GMK next? I'm not going to do GMK next, but that's awesome. I love that roar. I love this moment. I wish this Godzilla roared a little more, but I like the uses of the roar. The purple, man. The purple. Oh, this is really making me nostalgic for when I made my trailer 2 breakdown. CG looks incredible here. I love the texture of whatever it is glowing inside Godzilla, the reactor core, we'll call it. It's just too good. And this 3-staged atomic breath is so awesome. I like that they added that little detail that he has to protect his eye from the heat. It's cool. But man, the 3-stage atomic breath is so cool. His head has to tilt back so far right there to pull that off. I would probably agree. This might be, at the very least, this is my top 5 Godzilla scenes in history. I've never understood the narration here in these planes. It can't be that hard to just hire American voice actors to do that. I don't know why they didn't. But oh man, this shot. I remember when I first saw this movie, this was one of the only things that surprised me. I did not think he was about to fire all these beams out of his back in the middle of the night. Although I am not in love with the idea of that, the visual looks incredible. And all this stuff is awesome too. There's the shot where his atomic breath doesn't line up to his mouth, which has to be intentional, because I know people will argue that it's not intentional, but that's not the way CG works. You have to animate that frame by frame. They knew that was happening. They left it in there for either they couldn't fix it for whatever reason, or because they wanted it that way. It's so good. There's so much that I wish I could say about this, but I just don't have the time because it moves by too quick. Like that shot where he opens his mouth, his jaw splits in two. The jaw's awesome. And you get this like weird purple mist that flows out of his mouth before he fires the beam. Is so cool. He moves all weird here when he's slowing down. I don't know how these buildings are left standing. Here's he stops in front of the good old train station. Here's the section that I made a full video essay breaking down. I didn't talk about the music in that because it was all about the cinematography, but famously, one of the best songs on the soundtrack. Very emotional, very slow and quiet. But I like how you can see the trail of fire. You can see the path of destruction that Godzilla took to get to where he went. Really cool. And just this big plume of fire. And shots like this are beautiful. You know, you get the almost cross-like helicopter burning. Obviously, he left them there so he could sleep. Oh, the buildings. He left the buildings there so he could sleep. And this is a moment that people do not give this actor enough credit for. I wish I knew this actor's name off the top of my head, but the way he plays Iguchi through this entire sequence, it amazes me when people talk about him being a bland actor. That's the point, is that he's suppressing his emotions. And moments like this really show him not doing a very good job of that. And you do see a lot of range here with his acting ability. And again, I'm sitting here rewatching this scene and I want to break right back out into the same song and dance, talking about the handheld camera movements, how this is one of the only times in the film we get that, how it emphasizes the chaos and makes it so much more personal and lets you feel the tragedy on their level. Also, I love the overlapping dialogue, really chaotic during this sequence. The producers of this film wanted Godzilla to be the greatest worst nightmare. They succeeded. That's a cool A cool idea that Godzilla's dripping radiation from the mouth. Hiroki Hasegawa. Hiroki Hasegawa. I think that's how you say his name. Based on the comment that I just got, I'm going to think you say his name Hiroki Hasegawa. Yachi. Water bottle dude coming to the rescue. Again, nice quiet moment here. I like how you're given time to take a breath here after you've just watched the most exhilarating Godzilla scene. The film tells you to take a breath, kind of giving you a hint of what's to come. Those people were wearing masks ahead of their time. I'd be willing to bet these actors are doing the same thing right now. Like right here, when we see Yaguchi's title. It's just a funny gag. I really like it. Yeah, it is a familiar image. Sadly. I'll tell the TJ Storm story here in a second. Can't miss up the new Prime Minister. The most iconic scene in the movie. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Was this even like a meme? It sure was on this channel, the Soggy Noodles. That sure was something that we talked in great depth about in live streams. When are we going to see Yaguchi's title here? It's coming. So what's up with the upturned hands? Okay. So last summer, I went to Anime Matsuri, right? And I met the mocap Soggy Noodle breakdown video. Maybe I'll do it. I'm going to run out of content here within probably a month of summer. That's not going to happen. But if I start really doubling down on working on videos, I'll run out of content, and so that's when we'll get a Soggy Noodles breakdown. There it is. Cabinet Minister of the State, Special Mission, Giant Monster, Unidentified Creature. Ah! I tried to get his title. Soggy Noodles part is funny, but it also shows how unprepared the acting PM is at the moment. Exactly. But the new PM actually turns out to be a better PM than the last one. He's a little bit more on it after this point. Yuji's speech here is awesome. He has a lot of really great monologues in this movie, or like pep talks in this movie that I think are awesome. And this is one of them. Okay, hand story. Y'all want the hand story. So, we're at Anime Matsuri, right? And, you know, I get to meet TJ Storm, who played Godzilla in 2014 King of the Monsters. And he's talking about, him and I were talking about just like the Godzilla franchise in general. And he was having me explain the anime series to him, because he had only seen, at that point, I don't know if he's, after this point, I don't know if he's watched them all, but he had only seen the first 30 minutes or so of Monster Planet. He didn't turn it off because he wasn't into it. He said he didn't have the time to watch the full movie. So he was trying to have me explain the anime series to him. And I was trying to explain that the anime Godzilla was a cross between his Godzilla and Shin Godzilla. And he had never seen Shin Godzilla either. And so then he was trying to have me explain Shin Godzilla to him. And so I was trying to explain that it's the perfect modern day evil Godzilla movie. And he was getting all interested in it. And basically after we had that conversation, the rest of the time he seemed to be pretty into Shin Godzilla. When we'd go to the Godzilla store, he was only checking out like the Shin Godzilla stuff. He was all over the Shin Godzilla stuff. And he went up to, there's this massive Shin Godzilla poster. It was huge. And he went up to that and he started studying it, basically. And if you've seen my Matsuri videos, you've seen me take pictures in front of it. I have a lot of pictures taken in front of it. But he went and like studied this thing intently or intensely for a while. And after that, I think he really had an idea of Shin Godzilla. He was very aware of it. And he was very aware how much I liked Shin Godzilla. And so when we got to the final day, when we were all taking pictures, you know, because for whatever reason, I never took pictures with them until the last day. And then, you know, we needed pictures, so we were getting pictures. And they were like, all right, do a picture like the monsters or whatever. So, you know, you got the Ghidorah guys, Alan Max and Jason Lyles, Richard Dorton. They're all in their Ghidorah pose. You know, you got the two on each side. They're all doing Ghidorah. And then you've got TJ Storm, who's out. He has a very specific Godzilla posture. It's very... This sun is blinding me, I just noticed. It's very hunched. His Godzilla is very hunched, and the arms are up. So his Godzilla's are like, not up, but I'm trying to show you on camera because I know I don't have the greatest angle, but his arms are, they're definitely not up. They're like down here, but they're held up, kind of like how Nakajima used to hold the hands. I see the sun's really blasting me right here. I'm totally turned the wrong way. I totally just realized that. He held his hands out like this, right? I can't tell. I'm trying to look at the camera so I can see if you guys can see this. He holds his hands like this, hunched Godzilla. That's his posture. So we're all taking the picture, and in my head, I get the brilliant idea where I'm like, we've got Ghidorah, the American Godzilla. I'm a rep the Japanese Godzilla. So I stand up nice and tall, and I get my hands up turned like this. And he like stops us mid-picture, and he's like, you know, hold on, what are you doing? Why are your hands like this? He grabs my arms, he twists them. He's like, you're doing the wrong one. I see you out here with the Shin Godzilla. I don't know. It was just like such a kind of a classic moment for me. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. Getting called out by Godzilla himself for representing the wrong Godzilla, I just thought was too funny. It killed me. That was not something I had anticipated would happen, but it sure did. He wasn't being mean about it, by the way. It was just, you know, just joking around. It's like, you're doing the wrong Godzilla. I did not think he would have noticed that I was doing the wrong Godzilla, but I did not give him enough credit because he was definitely studying Shin Godzilla. Are you serious? Imagine if you told yourself in 2016 that you'd be informing the actor of 2014, the actor of 2014 Godzilla about Shin Godzilla. Imagine, yeah, Jesus. 2016 D-Man would have been so incredibly cringy in the situations I have found myself in. Now that I'm talking to the people I am talking to on a frequent basis, 2016 D-Man would not have been mature enough to handle the situation. Too much fanboying would have occurred that I would have driven them away. Not that there's anything wrong with fanboying, but you know, when I was talking to the mocap actors, right, and they said the reason that they felt so comfortable around me was because I don't treat them like they're, you know, like they're actors, you know? If that makes any sense. I see the light. I see it. I can't get up and close it because I'm going to block out the movie if I try and do that, or I'm going to miss some of the movie. But, yeah, it's the idea. It's like, I was conscious of it because I was trying to hold myself back from fanboying too much, that I was conscious of it, and so I think I made the effort to try and just treat them like people, and that goes a long way when you're dealing with people. in general. People don't always like to be treated special, is something that I've learned. I certainly don't. People don't really like that. There are some people that love it, but not everybody is into that. And so some people like to just be talked to like they're a person. I think the emotions during this whole section of the movie is, again, something that's really, really underplayed by people who talk about this film. The actor who plays Akasaka, he does an awesome job. He has a lot of emotion to the undercurrent of his performance here. Again, just like the actor who plays Iguchi. They do a great job at having these really emotional moments, and you can feel that they want to feel their emotions, but they won't let themselves. Like this line right here. I never thought I'd go down in history for something like this. They have to stop themselves because it's not the time. Just treat people like people. Don't talk to their fame. Talk to them. Very, very true. And again, framing like this is awesome. You get to see the literal divide between these two guys. They're not even looking the same direction. They're looking away from each other. They're not seeing eye to eye. Until right here when Iguchi kind of starts to get it, and they both kind of start to sway each other on the idea of how they need to proceed. Where are we at? I am at 121, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. And I think the ethics being brought up here are really interesting. The idea that, do we sacrifice a city, not the people in it, but do we sacrifice the city itself and the economy along with it for a long period of time in order to save our long-term selves? Do we make this sacrifice so that we can have a long-term economic security and a long-term national and international security? It's a really interesting discussion that they're having here. And it's a discussion I think a lot of people are having nowadays as well. How do we operate with situations like this? And I don't necessarily think either side is wrong. I know this movie will present the UN as kind of the bad guy, right? The UN is the one who wants to drop the thermonuclear bomb on Japan. And we're seeing this from the eyes of the Japanese. But if we were seeing this from other eyes, we would get it. We would understand. We would understand why they're doing this. And so I think it's an interesting discussion to be had. And I like the idea. And I like that we get to see them band together and refuse that. And they can prove that sometimes you can succeed without having to make the big sacrifice. Sometimes you can pull it off. And again, this is another moment where you see a lot of emotions running high. Iguchi right here. Don't give up. Don't abandon this country. I think it's awesome. And then right here, we kick back into the montage. Man is more frightening than Gojira. Truer words have never been spoken. Exactly. I don't know how long this film is. We only have 30 minutes left. Yeah, we only have 30 minutes left. Got the rock version of the song now. They should have used the bomb on Godzilla? Maybe. It may have worked. Maybe it wouldn't have. They bring up in the movie that he might be immortal, so maybe not. I still think they could probably find a way to use his biology against him. He heats up right there, right? We start to see him heating up right there. His nuclear energy is rebuilding, but I don't know. He sure doesn't get up right away, does he? People are texting me so much right now. So you and TJ Storm are friends. Neat. Yeah, I guess that's one. Yeah. And the critics didn't pay attention to these performances these actors are given. I disagree. I think the Japanese critics did. I don't think American critics really looked at this movie. But I think the Japanese critics looked to the performances and saw a lot to be in love with here. I'll have to remember in future videos or streams that I need to close the window because the sun is blasting me. I like how everyone kind of pins it on Akasaka. You know, he has to take the fall for this because he has to be the one to tell everybody. But he does mention here that if it was America, we would do the same. And I agree. I think they probably would. Probably would bomb the States if something like this happened. How does the hot spring sun feel? Not great. What is it, like 90 degrees today? That's a very apocalyptic moment right here. Every single vehicle trying to get out of the city. Oh, there'd be some... You wouldn't have that entirely. Blah, blah, blah. It's exaggerated for a reason. Have you ever heard that TJ Storm played the role as the Predator from Predator Hunting Ground? That's awesome. Yeah, I think he also maybe did some Predator work for the new Predator movie, if I'm not mistaken. It was like 97 for me. It was in the 90s today. It was hot. Why the freak is mine loading so bad? I do not know, but if you need the timestamp again, it's 1:27. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like the political alliances going on in this film. Do you notice how much I like in this film? Because I like a lot of this movie. I love the political discussions. I love the ethical discussions. I love the Godzilla stuff happening. This movie's awesome. I love this movie. I always think it's interesting when people are surprised that I have political opinions or that I am so okay and willing to have political discussions relating to Godzilla movies. Godzilla movies have been political for the past 65 years. I don't know what rock you've been living under, but they have been. So I think it makes sense that Godzilla being the thing that I grew up on, that'd be the thing that informs most of my decisions. Because it's such a big part of my life. And this right here is where we really get into the psychology of Goromaki. I might someday follow through on keep politics out of Godzilla. Okay, so no Godzilla then. Yeah. Oh my god. Guys, if you pay attention right here, the tail's about to open up, and that's the mouth developing, and that's how he's going to fire his atomic breath from the tail later. People who believe that drive me crazy. That's not the case. That's not the case. Drop it. That's not what's happening right there. The tail's ramping up for his evolution. He doesn't have a mouth that's alive in his tail. But yeah, I may eventually follow through on that promise, because if you remember, when I made the Shin Godzilla Tale Explained video, I promised in that video that I would dedicate a whole video essay to Goromaki, and I would do a full in-depth discussion on Goromaki in this film. I never did that video. But this summer, I think I will. I do plan on potentially doing it this summer. Remember the video when D-Man did the video on the tail? Yeah, I've done multiple videos on the tail. J.J. Storm was the mocap actor for Iron Man and Captain America Civil War. I did know that. He also played Colossus in Deadpool. He's done a lot of really awesome roles. This movie, though, doesn't get credit. People never talk about the mocap in this movie, but Godzilla was mocapped in this movie. Not only Godzilla, but Kamata-kun was kind of mocapped in this movie in a certain sense, right? They did the there's a puppet. They used a puppet and then they mapped over the puppet. Whereas Godzilla himself was mocapped. Is someone driving a motorcycle outside my house? What am I hearing? I don't know why they bring this up. I kind of get it, because they're trying to throw every obstacle possible at our characters. The odds are supposed to be so exponentially stacked against our characters. There's no way that they can succeed, which is why they need the German supercomputer to analyze things. But I think it's weird that the movie would introduce that plot element that potentially the coagulant won't be effective, only to 5 minutes later be like, just kidding, it will be effective. Seems odd to me that we have to cover this ground with the Germans and the supercomputer. D-Man's old wallpaper is about to come up. My old wallpaper? That comes at the very end of the movie. I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about the shot of Yaguchi standing in front of Godzilla in the background, one of my favorite shots in the Godzilla franchise, that is coming up soon. I like this moment. I like the weird green stuff all over the screen, and I like that it's a legit laptop that they filmed this on. You can see when he slams it down. It's weird from a storytelling perspective, but works from a realism perspective. I agree there. This movie does a lot of things kind of like that, where they will have these things brought up that don't necessarily go anywhere, and they're brought up for the sake of realism. But that one in particular stands out as the one that could have been easily cut from the movie. I like Maki's message. Do as you please. I did the same. Well, Japanese critics know Godzilla. Most American critics, on the other hand, don't know Godzilla. And they're kind of idiots because of it. Fair enough. So you're watching the movie on a laptop? Very cool. See, there we go. We have another introduction of one of the movie's main themes here. Yaguchi saying that you can't get anything done on your own, but you can get things done when you work together. The movie's talking about, all this red tape getting in the way, all this bureaucracy trying to weigh everything down. The movie's real message is maybe if we would work together, we could get things done. The movie's trying to argue for kind of solidarity in a certain sense. If everyone would unite and we wouldn't get in our own way, there could be so much more being done. That's really what the movie's trying to argue, and that is the lesson that Godzilla learns through this movie, is that if there's more of him, and if he can work together with himself, he can get more done. Do we know what the Japanese critics thought of King of the Monsters? I think it's pretty mixed. I think there are a lot of Japanese people that loved King of the Monsters, and I think there are a lot of Japanese people that did not love King of the Monsters. Yashiori. Is Yashiori? Is that a real thing? I've never looked into that legend. I would imagine it is. I wonder how the people of America thought of this situation. I want to see an alternate side of this movie, but entirely from the perspective of the American citizens. I've thought about that as well. I've thought about that in a lot of Godzilla stories? How are other nations responding to this particular story? Shin Godzilla is one. I don't remember if you guys remember, but back when Shin Godzilla was coming out, I proposed a Shin Godzilla sequel that was set during the events of Shin Godzilla. And rather than being told from the government's perspective, it was told from the citizens' perspective. So it would have a lot more 2014 style cinematography where citizens, probably a reporter because it's Godzilla, were on the ground having to deal with this stuff in ground zero, you know, there during the attacks, that kind of thing. The biggest problem with doing a story like that is basically how would you do the ending of the movie? Because once you have the atomic breath sequence, your characters are going to be sidelined, they're going to be pulled out, and you're just going to rewatch the same ending of Shin Godzilla. But that is something I've thought about. I think you could easily make an amazing short film, 30 minutes to an hour, where the film is entirely told from the perspective of the citizens during the events of Shin Godzilla. Thank you very much, Tom Ferrara. I don't know if I said your name right. Tom Ferrara. The film where Godzilla goes through a midlife crisis. Is that your way of telling me to watch Son of Godzilla next? What are you trying to say there? See, this dude speaks English. He sounds like an American. Why not get him to do the voices of the plane pilots? I would have cut that line. I would have cut the subplot of her wanting to be president. I would have had her want to go for a different position in the American government that isn't president. Because there's no way that someone who speaks English like this would ever become president. So I would have had her go for a senator or something. Thought about doing a King Kong watch-along. Thought about that lately. Don't know which film to do. I like that moment. Get that high five of friendship. This movie is good because you kind of have that relationship between the two of these characters where you could easily have just gone the love interest route with those two. Like, oh man, these two kind of got a thing going. I like that this movie doesn't do that. I like that we can have a relationship between a man and a woman that's solely friendship. You know? Kind of refreshing. Thank you, Tom, for the donation. He says, because in Godzilla is in pain and agony through the whole film. You're talking about this movie, or once again, he could be talking about Son of Godzilla. I would argue that Godzilla is in agony and is in pain the whole time in Son Godzilla as well. King Kong 2005 watch-along. Actually, 76 was the one I wanted to do a watch-along of, but I know not enough people would tune into that. Not enough people own Kong 76. I'll do a King Kong vs. Godzilla watch-along eventually. That will come much closer to Godzilla vs. Kong's release. 2005 would be a hell of a long watch-along, especially if we did the extended cut. You got Kong 76 before quarantine started? That's what I like to hear. You don't like the Shin Godzilla design, Kenny? I really like it. Another great speech by Yaguchi. This movie is real special to me. This is a movie that I often credit as being the one to kickstart my channel in a lot of senses. This is not the movie that inspired me to do the channel. That was 2014, but this movie is the reason that I'm popular. I strongly believe that had I not made my Shin Godzilla All Scenes in Orders videos, had I not made my Tale Explained video, I don't think my channel would be around nowadays. Specifically the All Scenes in Order. I'm not convinced my channel would be around had I not done the All Scenes in Order, because I don't think it would have got enough attention to warrant me to continue it for 6 years almost. Wait, is the movie over for you? No. It's over for you? What time did you start it? What the heck? We are at 1:40:22, 23, 24, 25. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum. Battle in Outer Space just kicked in. We're blowing up Godzilla. The train physics here work. I like the roar, King Kong vs. Godzilla roar. Revenge of the Trains. Yeah, they're getting their revenge after 62, I think, when this movie came out. 62 years of being bullied. Like the drone combat, too. That's something that I think would happen a lot more in Godzilla movies. That laser light show, man. Godzilla really knows how to turn it up. I wonder how long he would have stayed asleep. Probably not much longer. What would he have done once he woke up if he went unattacked? He probably would have just walked straight through Japan? I don't know. I like the way he shifts right there. And the way he shreds these buildings, super cool. Again, not in love with the laser light show, but they execute it well enough to where I can get over it. I know some people kind of laugh at it. Some people kind of laugh at the way he aims it. I don't have a problem with him aiming it. I think it looks fine. I think it looks like that. I think it looks really cool. I love the way he just shreds these buildings. And I like the harsh body turns he does in order to pull that off. He was set to wake up 15 hours from when they attacked him. That's what I'm saying, is what would he have done once he woke up? Like, would he just, I feel like he just walked through the city. There's the light building up the tail. And there it fires. Once again, it's not atomic breath. That's much more in line with what we saw fire out of his dorsal fins. No mouth alive in the tail for the 10 billionth time. Even though, yes, they designed a face in the tail. It's not a mouth, and it's not alive. I like that the tail does turn into fire, though. That's kind of cool. It's a cool touch. And then I love this shot where it poofs right on out of his mouth. I think that's so cool. He's got a really weird mouth lining, though, doesn't he? Like these ripples inside of his mouth. And this is kind of a moment that I've always viewed as a little bit of a middle finger to the American Godzilla, specifically to 2014, because of course King of the Monsters wasn't out yet. They're toppling like building after building on Godzilla. And although we got the awesome 1962 roar, he gets right on up. Whereas in 2014, the building almost kills him. I've always thought it was kind of interesting, though, the way his tail sort of falls in slow motion. There's some stock footage for us. And the special effects in this sequence are awesome. Again, this was a lot of miniatures that went into this sequence to make this successful. And I think Shinji Higuchi, maybe, is the one who handled a lot of this photography. It's awesome, though. It looks awesome. Again, I love the buildings getting dropped on Godzilla, even though his mouth does not move there when he roars. Who remembers the T-Rex roar? Yeah, I remember that the T-Rex roar that was put into that Philippines trailer that just spoiled the whole movie. had all these shots of the lasers and everything. I'm still to this day not sure if that was an actual... It was like a Philippines or Singapore or something. A Singapore trailer maybe. To this day, I'm not sure if that was a fan-made trailer. I think it might have been. Or if that was actually just straight up the Singapore trailer. See, like, Godzilla's CG doesn't look the best in this ending sequence. Basically from here up until he freezes, up until he gets back up to freeze, I think he looks a little under-textured. Such a weird way to take out Godzilla, though, to force feed him coagulant. Couldn't he just close his mouth and stop that from happening? I feel like this Godzilla kind of defeats himself by not putting up much of a fight right here. All he'd have to do is just close his mouth. But I do like this reveal here with the atomic breath. Bam! When he gets them all. That's awesome. The pipes would snap. He couldn't pick them up. That's fair. That's a cool shot. I like that shot where he gets up and roars right there and then his tail swings down in front of the camera. Most of my favorite Godzilla shots have already happened by now, but that is a cool moment. And here we get the most absurd scene in a movie where Godzilla fires beams from his tail. The fact that these trains hit these ramps and just fly like that? What the hell? Why do they do that? That's absurd. See, like I said, it's an almost perfect movie, but then it's got moments like flying trains that make me go... Under a Burning Sky is a pretty sick song. What do you think of this? What? I've never understood the trains, why the trains do that. I've also never explained or understood why the trains do them. I like the destroyed city, though. That's a cool look in the background. This movie's got a lot of really cool scenery. I just assume it has something to do with the blowing off of the trains, of the blowing up, you mean? Like they're blowing each other upward. I think that's kind of the intent, that the explosions are sending one another upward, but it is silly. The inside of his mouth looks like a... I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to read that comment. Look at him twitch. I see him twitch. There his tail goes down. Right here's where you can really see the face. Right there. The face that's developing in said tail. Yeah, I mean, I think Godzilla gets up with enough speed to where maybe the things wouldn't snap right away. I like that you can see him turning purple there, and his jaw does split before coming back together as he freezes. And then you've got the 84 roar coming up here, right there. That's a really cool shot, and the CG looks great right here. The frozen Godzilla looks really awesome. And I remember discussing at length my theory that the sequel to this movie was going to use a whole bunch of Heisei music and sound effects, which I do think would be really awesome. If they do a sequel to this movie, I really hope that it has, the Heisei sound effects, because not only do we end it with the 84 roar, which gives us our first indication that this Godzilla is shifting a little more into the Heisei era, but it also ends with the Terror of Mechagodzilla, or what the hell did I just say? It has the Mechagodzilla 2 theme song as one of, if not the last songs in the end credits, which gives us an indication that if they do a sequel, maybe they'll shift to the Heisei era. That's a moment that I think is kind kind of comedic. It's a little funny. Sorry, didn't mean to upset you that much. I'm not upset. I don't get upset. So I wonder, someone needs to do the math for me, how long it will take before the coagulant officially wears off, because it has a while. The way half-lives work is it halves each time. So they have a while. This was a moment that really confused me the first time I saw this movie. I thought right here Akasaka was informing our boy Yaguchi that the entire ministry department was going to be wiped out and replaced with new ministers. I thought that meant that Yaguchi was going to get replaced. So I thought he was saying right here, you're being fired. Which is not what he's saying. He is saying that they are getting an entirely new cabinet along with these guys. And that the current higher up positions are now going to dissolve, and there will be a brand new set of higher ups. So he's basically saying now's the time for promotion, basically. Almost. Whatever. You guys get what I'm saying? What kind of comment is that? Do you think they should add Yongari to the Monsterverse? No. Why would the new isotope's half-life have anything to do with the coagulant? Because pseudoscience. I don't know. I like the stars in this building behind them. They're in an interesting location. It may take years for the coagulant to be fully removed from Godzilla's system, if not already kill him. I don't think it'll kill him. I love the song that plays through the scene, uplifting after everything that's happened. It is a cool song. A lot of people used to make fun of it, call it like the Wii music. I like this song. I used to listen to this song at night when I couldn't sleep. I would listen to this song. Do you think they're going to make a sequel? No. I don't think they're going to make a sequel, but I sure would like one. I have hope. Maybe. Maybe someday. And he chooses to own it. He's going to be the best politician. I like the implication there that he's just going to be like, yeah, people died. People died, but we got the job done. There it is. That shot right there is the key to coexistence, is it not? That shot right there. Oh, man. That's got to be top 5 Godzilla shots from the entire franchise for me. I love that so much. Things are still far from settled, but you guys will never get to see the resolution because they're going to be making Evangelion 4 and Shin Ultraman instead. And there you have it. Godzilla has also learned the importance. Oh, look at that. That's such a creepy... Oh, man, I love the creature designs here. He's finally learned the importance of, community. That film is a masterpiece. The fact that it ends with the 54 music is also awesome. Godzilla has learned the power of teamwork. Now, if only humanity could do the same. When is Shin Ultraman coming out? I have no idea. 2022, I'm going to assume. I I think it was supposed to come out in 2021, but we'll see with the current COVID situation. Am I really like frame ratey and laggy? Because I look really frame ratey and laggy. I might be. I shouldn't have turned that off. I'll turn it back on until the end credits end. My bad. I can't read any of this, but I think all the people who worked on this film make such great work. I agree. They made an awesome movie. Definitely one of the best films, for sure. Like I said, probably my top #1 favorite movie of the past 20 years right here. And then Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster music. If you had your way, what would you do with 2? I think I've talked a little bit about this in the past. With the second one, it's going to be difficult to say. I don't think I'm creative enough to come up with a sequel to this movie. I'm not as creative as Hideki Anno. And I'm totally cool to admit that. But I think it'd be interesting. Look at all the movies that will get a copyright claim. What? Looks at all the movies that will get a copyright claim. Just because of the music or what? I think it'd be interesting in a sequel to see the humanoid creatures on his tail split off his tail, be their own creatures, go around and cause some havoc. Yeah, the music certainly will get you copyright claimed. God damn it. But I think it'd be interesting in the sequel to have, these little creatures running around, these 50-foot tall humanoid Godzillas doing battle with the military in the streets. And once the second act starts, that's when I would have Godzilla not shed his frozen state, but I would have it crumble. So Godzilla sheds the entire outward skin of himself, and he comes out of it looking much more like the Heisei Godzilla. And that's where he can go from there, is he just looks super mean, and he basically tears his way out of himself. And then you have a new Godzilla that's been rebirthed. And you can have a lot of classic Godzilla destruction with that. Shin Godzilla is like the Joker 2019 of the Godzilla franchise. That's actually not a bad comparison. I think it's more likely that we'll get a Joker sequel than it is that we'll get a Shin Godzilla sequel. Even though I know the cast for Shin Godzilla has said they'd be down to do a sequel to this movie. And some of the crew of the movie have said they'd be down. I don't think he should turn into a Godzilla 2000-esque Godzilla. No. But yeah, that's basically what I would do with the sequel. If I were to do a sequel, I'd have the humanoids be the first act, and then Godzilla show up. I don't know if I'd have him fight another monster. Maybe he'd fight like Destroya, because Destroya is another monster that goes through these crazy evolutions, and I think it'd be really formidable for Shin Godzilla. I wouldn't want to do Ghidorah again. I wouldn't want to do Shin Ghidorah, because no offense to Ghidorah, I love ya, but I want to see some of the other monsters get more time to shine. It is the last song in the movie, you're right. Bum, 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 bum. So cool. Hopefully shifting us into the Heisei era for the potential sequel, the theoretical sequel. I don't know, what would you guys want in the sequel? Shin Ghidorah looks badass in the Evangelion ride. He does look really cool. The Evangelion ride's really awesome. Not Shin Mechagodzilla. Get out of here. Imagine Shin turning into the MonsterVerse Godzilla. Imagine that. Do GMK next. I am probably I'm probably going to do 98 next. How's that sound? Do 98 next week? It's been a hot minute since I have watched Godzilla 98. Alright, I can close out the laptop now. Let's get you out of here. Hear me out, though. I have a lot of reasons for why I want to do 98. I think I have said I'm not doing Godzilla's Revenge. That is not going to be next week. But I do plan on doing that. Hear me out. I have a number of reasons why I think... Where's my mouse? A number of reasons why I think 98 would be the one to do. All right, see you, Godzilla 2006. Oh, he said I'm down, not I'm out. I thought he said, okay, I'm out. Peace out is said by Christian. All right, see you, Christian Perez. 98 is good because it's a movie that most of you guys own, most of my viewers own because it's American. Most of my viewers own the American movies. I understand that the Japanese ones will be a little harder to come by for a lot of people. And I want to do 98 because not only is it in English, which makes it a lot easier to do a commentary for because I don't have to read anything. Actually, this was surprisingly much easier than I thought it was going to be, but it's because I have seen this movie an unhealthy amount of times, even recently. When back in like December, I watched this movie once a day for like 2 straight weeks because I was working on that video essay. I've seen this movie so much that I was super familiar with it, but I think for other Japanese Godzilla movies, I might be a little bit less on the ball, and I think I may need to do a little more reading. Apparently, you're telling me 98 is on Netflix. I did not know that. I'll take your word for it. So there you go. You have even more people who can tune in to watch it. It's an American movie most people will be able to watch, and it also sort of falls in line with what we're doing, right? We're covering kind of the modern era of Godzilla. I'm doing the watch-alongs for. I'm not going to touch on any of the Toho films for a while. It's going to be a while before I start touching on the Toho films with watch-alongs. I think once I'm done with this, maybe we'll do King Kong. Maybe. But I'm probably just going to stop with 98 here. And maybe the Netflix movies I might do as well. But yeah, I might do the modern era of Godzilla, which would be... The Netflix films would be the last ones I have to cover. And the 98 is grouped into that category, not because it came out with the films, but because it's put into the Hollywood era. So if I do 98, I will have completed the Hollywood era of Godzilla movies, right? And then all I'll have to do is the anime films. That's not going to be a problem. I can definitely do those. Those are only like an hour and a half. That'll be a brisk watch-alongs, so that'll be fine. But yeah, I think that's the plan. I think the plan is next week will be Godzilla 98. The week after that will probably be Monster Planet, and then I'll just do the anime trilogy week by week, and then once we're done with the anime trilogy, I will take a lengthy hiatus from doing watch-alongs, because although they are a lot of fun, they take up a lot of time. And I could use a little bit of a rest. But yes, I think next week I will be back ready to go for Godzilla 98. Hope to see you guys there. I do have so much homework to do. I have finals that I need to do. So we're ending the stream here. There's going to be no real time for Q&A afterward. I thank you guys all for tuning in. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like that idea? Real fast before we end it. Let me know what you think. Do you think that that's a good idea to cover 98 so we can knock off the Hollywood and the Reiwa? That's definitely not how you say it. But that's how we'll say it. The Reiwa era with the anime films, I think that's a swell idea. Season 1 of the Watchalongs will conclude. Exactly. This is just season 1. I will definitely do more in the future. Reiwa. It would actually be a r sound at the start. Reiwa. Reiwa. Godzilla's Revenge just every single week is just Godzilla's Revenge again. Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch 98. Have some fun. Trashing on some elements of it, but talking about some of the things they do right. Because they do some things right. The first third of that movie is great. And then after the first third, it's not that good. Once Godzilla shows up, things start to fall apart. Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I hope to see you guys all there next week for the next one. I mean, sure, Monster Planet and Planet Eater, but City on the Edge, just skip that one. Alright. Thank you guys all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out. Really appreciate you guys tuning in week to week. It's been a lot of fun.